All right, AT&T, Kevin Prendergast, wealth advisor with the Retirement Network. I'm recording this video in February 2021, so we've had a tremendous run in the stock market dating back to the end of March 2020, kind of the bottom of the whole COVID-19 panic that occurred in the stock market. So your portfolio, the composition of your portfolio, the mix of stocks and bonds in that 401k retirement savings plan has probably changed quite a bit since last March, hopefully in a good way. And so this is a natural time to take a look and see if you should make any adjustments. Before I get into the 401k retirement savings plan from an investment standpoint, if there's one thing that you take away from our videos, our conversations about the 401k, it's please, please, please contribute at least 6% of your pay if you can. If you can do so without, other nasty consequences like going into credit card debt, etc., please do contribute at least 6%. If you're already doing more than that, you're an overachiever, that's great, keep up the good work. But if you're doing something like 4 or 5%, bump it up to 6 if you can. Doesn't, before tax Roth, we can split hairs about that. Just please, please, please do at least 6%. If you don't, you're leaving money on the table, right? Because AT&T is matching your contributions 80 cents on the dollar up to the first 6% that you contribute. All right, so please, please, please do at least 6%. But let's talk about the investments. Generally speaking, there are bonds and there are stocks, right? Stocks are ownership interests in companies. Bonds are loans. So you're effectively making loans to corporations, loans to governments, and then banking on them to pay you back, pay you some interest, pay your principal back, right? So on the bond side of the fence, interest rates are really low right now by historical standards. So that means the expected return from our bond investments is also very low. Now, bonds tend to be a bit more stable, at least bonds that are of high quality, loans that are to people or institutions likely to pay you back. They tend to be pretty stable, but the rate of return is not very compelling. What is nice about the 401k retirement savings plan is that you have something called the stable value fund. Now, the stable value fund, as its name implies, has a value that doesn't fluctuate, a stable value, but it pays an interest rate of about 2% at the moment. That's pretty good when you compare it to what your bank pays you on your checking and savings account, which is probably pretty close to zero. 2% is pretty good. And you can move money into the stable value fund. You can take money out of the stable value fund whenever you like, and you're earning 2% interest in the meantime. So a good approach to the stable value fund might be to say, all right, I'm going to be retiring in a couple of years. I want to have a certain amount of money set aside in that stable value fund on the first couple of years of my retirement. I might need that money. That's a reasonable approach to take to the stable value fund, and the stable value fund is a good option to do something like that. If you're of that age where you're getting pretty close to retirement, and you're at an age where you can access those funds without penalty and that kind of thing. Alternatively, if you're 10 plus years for retirement, or you're planning to live at least 10 more years after retirement, which hopefully all of you are, you need to have some stock exposure as well. You probably need to have some stock exposure, because stocks, that's how we protect our money from inflation, right? The stuff we need our money to buy gets more expensive over time. We call that inflation. And stocks, being ownership interests in companies that sell us goods and services as consumers, they tend to at least pass through the rate of inflation in the performance, the rate of return those stocks generate, if not exceed it, right? If we get some productivity gains and some economic growth, et cetera, some innovation. So stocks are a necessary component. What level of stock exposure you have, that's going to vary widely depending on where you are in your life and how you think about things. But stock exposure is pretty important. And you guys have some good low-cost options, like the large cap stock index fund, for example. Those are very large companies that are based here in the US. That's a pretty sensible way to approach the stock market. You have other options as well, smaller companies, international companies, et cetera. So strike a balance between those two things, kind of the stable value bond side of the fence and the stock side of the fence. Stocks are going to be highly variable, but they're going to drive performance in this low interest rate world. Stable value or the bond side of the fence, that might be how you set aside money that you're going to use sometime soon, sometime in the next few years. That's a very reasonable approach. So in summary, put away at least 6%. Evaluate your kind of stock bond mix at the moment. See what makes sense for you. There are independent third parties like ourselves that can help you take a look at your portfolio and determine if you have a sensible mix in place. All right, hopefully this is helpful, and we'll see you guys in our other videos. Take care. Bye.